Hey students, in this video I'm going to show you how to do basic descriptive analysis. So it's actually fairly easy. For all of the variables you have in your database, you can pull up or ask SPSS to give you the correct descriptive measure. So where you go is you click Analyze, then you click Descriptive Statistics, and then you go to Frequencies. If you click Frequencies, this window will open up. You can make this larger if you would want to. And on the left side, again, you have all your variables, so you could choose, depending on what the measurement level is, what type of descriptive measure you want to report. Let's take, for example, the newly created computed subjective knowledge index. This, as you know, is a metric scaled variable where people could answer between 1 and 5. So since it is a metric scaled variable, the correct statistical value we want to pull up is a mean. So you click Statistics, and here you can ask for any measure for central tendency. Of course, you could click Mode and Median and so on, but the most valuable for a metric scaled variable would be mean. So we click Mean. And here's the measures for dispersion or measures for variability. Remember in class we talked about measures for central tendency and measures for variability. So the appropriate measure for dispersion or for variability would be standard deviation. If you want, you can also ask variance, you could ask range, minimum, maximum, and so on. So basically here you can choose whichever applies. You can hit continue. If you want, you can build a chart. So let's say, for example, here you can choose your chart type. You can click bar chart, pie chart, histogram, show a normal curve on the histogram just to show how your data compares to a normal curve. You can do all of these things. Let's click bar chart for now. Then for the chart values, you can choose between whether you want actual frequencies or percentages. That's up to you as well. You hit continue. Here you don't really have to worry about. This says display frequency tables. I recommend that for metric scaled variables you uncheck this box, because for metric scaled variables the frequency table that will be shown in your output will be very large, simply because there will be a lot of different concrete values. So display frequency tables is something that I would only click personally for nominal or ordinal data. But since this is metric scaled, I prefer to uncheck this box. Don't forget to check it again if you're working with nominal or ordinal data later. So we hit continue, and let's go down. This is what our output shows. By the way, and as you know, your output constantly generates content, so things that I did earlier will be found up there if I scroll up. So cool, we have our frequencies. This is what we know about subjective knowledge now in our sample's average subjective knowledge. We know that 189 people have answered this question. There's 11 missings. We have 200 people in total in our database, so this makes sense. We know that the mean, so the average, on a 5-point scale, of 1 being I don't know much about craft beer to 5 I think I have very high subjective knowledge about craft beer. Well, we found that the average is 3.3536. So that's not very high. I mean, it's above the midpoint, so it does mean that people tend to believe they are somewhat knowledgeable about craft beer, but they're not too confident, clearly, because on a 5-point scale, a 3.35 is not amazing, actually. So people are still pretty modest about their subjective knowledge. The standard deviation is a 1.04. The range is 4. That's because the range is always the difference between the minimum and the maximum. So the minimum answer we got from someone was 1. The maximum answer we got from a respondent was 5. And this is a table. Since we asked SPSS to give us a table, this table shows what the distribution really is of our sample data here for the question subjective knowledge index. So you can see that the majority is like around here. So it gives you an idea of what your distribution is like. Now this was a descriptive analysis for a metric scale variable. We may also want to do this for non-metric scale variables, so for nominal or ordinal variables. And therefore we also click Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, and Frequencies. And if you click Frequencies, let's remove this one that we just did and find another variable that we are interested in. So maybe gender we're interested in. So you can run them one by one, or you can insert another nominal variable. Obviously, you don't want to mix nominal and interval or ratio scale variables at the same time, because they're going to require different central tendency measures. So you can either just do everything one by one, or you could analyze two nominal variables at the same time, because your output will show the results separately, but you only click the same measure for each because they're both nominal, if that makes sense. So okay, so let's do this. We're interested in these. Let's click statistics. Now, obviously, we don't want a mean, so we have to uncheck that box because a mean only applies to metric scale data. So we click the mode instead. Obviously, since this is nominal data, we also do not want standard deviation, we don't want range, and we don't want minimum and maximum. So let's only click mode. You hit continue, and don't forget to click display frequency tables, because your frequency tables will be what tells you something about the distribution of your nominal variables. If you want, yes, you can leave the bar chart, pie chart. Let's maybe do a pie chart just for fun, and leave this at frequencies. You could do percentages if you wanted to. Hit continue, and then hit OK. And here's your output. So as you can see, your output, since we ran two variables at the same time, two nominal variables, it'll show you a column for gender and a column for ethnicity. So you can analyze both separately. We see that more people answered the question gender. We only have 29 missings. Well, only, it's still bad, but we have 29 missings for gender, and we have 31 missings, so people who did not respond to the question about ethnicity. The mode, so the most commonly occurring value for gender is 1. Now, if you're not sure anymore whether 1 stood for male or for female, you can just go here in your database and then click here on values and find what the value was for male, female. Let's see, here's gender recode. Actually, we can make this smaller. 1 stood for male. Cool, so the most occurring gender in this database is male. And for ethnicity, we see that the most occurring or the most chosen answer option is also 1. What does 1 stand for in ethnicity? 1 stands for white. Okay, so the most occurring ethnicity is white. Now here you see the frequency table for both. If you go down, you see, a frequency table for gender and a frequency table for ethnicity. So here you see the breakdown of how many people in our sample are assigning themselves as male or female, or identify themselves as male or as female, or who refused to answer or clicked other, and how many system missings we have. So you see percentage, valid percent, which takes into account these missings, and then cumulative percent. Same for ethnicity, you find a breakdown of how many people are white, Hispanic, Asian, Black, and so on. So you see all of that right here, multiple identifications, you see system missing, and so on. Again, you see percentage column, valid percent, and cumulative percent. Here's a pie chart. Because we asked the pie chart, you can visualize your results like this. You see how the proportion of males versus females versus other. And for ethnicity, you see a pie chart as well. So this is all there is to it for descriptive analysis. Always just go to Analyze, Descriptive Statistics, Frequencies, and then for whichever variable you select, make sure to click the appropriate measure for central tendency, the appropriate measure for variability, if that applies, and don't forget to either check or uncheck frequency tables, depending on what variable you're working with. Okay, that's it.